What's up, YouTube? So now that we have our 18 7 by 7 inch pieces and our 117 7 by 13 inch pieces, we're ready to lay this out and sew it together. I also have a stack of accent rectangles here. It's just different colored corduroy and denim. I may use some of these, or I may use all of them. We'll find out when I lay this out. So now you just want to clear a nice, flat, big area. I'm going to use my floor here to lay this out. So now, just following my pattern here, I'm just going to lay this out and make any adjustments when I'm finished. Alright guys, and now it's all laid out. If you noticed, when I first laid out the first row, I only put 6 instead of 7. So I had to go back and add a whole nother row onto the sides. Now's the time that you just want to go through and make sure your quilt's how you want it. I like to spread all the different colors evenly throughout the quilt so your eye's not drawn to just one section of the quilt. And I think that this looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to add some accent fabrics. I may choose to use them, or I may choose not to use any of them. I'll just see how it looks when I lay it out. Now when I lay out my accent fabrics, I don't want them in the same row or in the same column. As you can see, I spaced these ones evenly. And like I said in my previous video, I like to use odd numbers of accent fabrics. That way your eye's not drawn to a pattern. So I like to cut them out in 3, 5, 7, or 9. So I think this space fabric looks cute in this quilt, but it needs something more. So I'm going to try it with some green corduroy also. Looking good. Now I'm going to throw in this brown. What do you think? Now finally I have this khaki material. Now I think this is starting to look great. After digging through my bin, I also found some white denim. So what do you think? After looking at this, to me, I think the space fabric is a little too much. So I'm going to go ahead and just take it out. I think that's much better. And like I said in my previous video, don't be afraid to use bleach spots, or even this one over here has holes in it. I think that just gives it character to the quilt. The next thing we're going to do is sew this bad boy together. Now it's very, very easy to get confused on a quilt this size especially. So what I like to do is mark my rows. So what I like to do is just grab some scrap paper. I marked it 1 through 18. Grab some pins. And I'm going to mark the left side of each of these rows with the corresponding number. Just like that. Now we're just going to stack our rows together with our numbered block on top, and we're going to put that over top of the one right next to it, and keep doing that until we have all our rows stacked up. If you have a big enough area where this isn't going to bother somebody for a day or two, you can certainly just leave this, but this is kind of a high traffic area in our house, and Mother will kill me if I leave this out. Alright guys, I have my piles all stacked together. And just to make sure I don't lose any pieces, especially the stacks that have the 7 by 7 inch ones, I'm just going to go ahead and use my Wonder Clips and put a clip on each pile. Now the next thing to do is sew these rows together. So I'll meet you over at my sewing machine and we'll get started. Alright guys, here I am over at my sewing machine. I'm about to sew the first row together. This is the perfect time to use your half-used thread and bobbin spools. And you definitely want to put a brand new denim needle in your sewing machine. And I've already done it here. So now you just want to take your first rectangle off the top here. We're going to take the one right underneath of it with right sides together. We're going to go ahead and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the right side here, opposite of where our tag is. Now I have my sewing machine set up on the length of 2 and on a straight stitch. If you like, you could backstitch at the beginning and the end, but I don't think it's very necessary. Now you just want to open that up. I like to leave my tag here on until the very end because it does get very confusing. You want to take your next rectangle, lay that on top, right sides facing, and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now the same thing. And you want to do that until you have all 7 sewed together. Now that I have all 7 sewed together, I'll meet you over at my ironing board. Alright guys, so now that we have our whole strip sewed together, with a hot iron, I like to use steam, we're going to press all our seams open. So what I like to do is go ahead and press these all open from the back side, and then flip it around and iron the front also. And by pressing these seams open, when we go to sew our rows together, we're not going to have a huge chunk of denim to try to get our needle over. Once you have this all pressed together, like I said, I like to leave the tag on till the very end. You just want to put this aside and do that 17 more times. Alright guys, so now that I have all 18 strips sewed together, I'm going to take row 1 and row 2 here, and I'm going to join those. The easiest way to do that, I find, is to take row 1, we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to just crease this rectangle right here, and that'll be our center point. Then you just want to find your center seam for row 2, which happens to be right here. We're going to open this up and we're going to line up this crease with this center point. Just like that, and pin it. And I like to put a pin in each rectangle just to make sure nothing moves around when I'm sewing it. And now we're just going to take this over to our sewing machine, and with that 1/2 inch seam allowance, we're going to sew all the way down, making sure that your seams are laying flat on both sides when you sew. And we're going to do that for all the strips. So I'm going to sew row 3 to 4, row 5 to 6, row 7 to 8, and so on. Alright guys, so I have all those rows sewed together. So the next step I'm going to do is sew row 1 to row 3, then 5 to 7, and so on, until I have my whole quilt sewed together. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all put together. And there you have it. Our denim quilt top is all finished. On the next video, I'll show you how to bat this, back it, and the binding. If you like this video and want to see more of my videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. If you have a question about this video or any of my other videos, or have a suggestion for an upcoming video, leave a comment down below. Feel free to share this across all your social medias. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.